Midnight news coming to you live from Algiers, the headlines. Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune arrives in Bari, Italy to participate in the G7 summit of the world's major manufacturers and receives his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron at his residence. Coming up next, the Israeli occupation killed 30 Palestinians in 3 massacres in the 251st day of the genocidal war on the Gaza Strip amid rapid deterioration of the humanitarian situation. African and Asian countries demand intensified efforts to prepare for conditions for holding a self-determination referendum in Western Sahara. As you just followed in our top stories, Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune traveled to the Italian city of Bari on Thursday to attend the G7 summit for major global manufacturers scheduled from June 13th to June 15th, as stated by a release from the Algerian presidency. The source further explained that President Tebboune's participation in the summit comes at the invitation of Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. And according to a statement from the Algerian presidency, President Abdelmajid Tebboune received the French President Emmanuel Macron at his residence, Masria San Francisco, in the Italian city of Bari. G7 summit kicked off in Italy's Puglia region. Leaders from 7 of the world's richest countries are meeting for a 3-day gathering that will largely focus on the war in Gaza and the war in Ukraine, as well as growing tensions between the West and China. Nabil Khazini provides you with more details.
The sky was clear, framing a picturesque view for G7 leaders to watch their flags descending on the soil of Italy's Puglia, where the summit is taking place. Discussing the weight of pressing issues was also looming on the horizon. This was evident when leaders sat on the round table. This summit comes at a delicate moment. The Middle East in flames, with the war on Gaza killing tens of thousands, and the war in Ukraine is well in its 3rd year, in addition to a growing tension between the West and China. All of these make this G7 summit a notable gathering.
Parleremo ovviamente delle crisi in atto a partire da
We will talk about the current crisis starting with Ukraine and the Middle East, and we will start from the work by the Japanese G7 to create solid and controllable supply chains. We will discuss what is probably the most complex challenge of our time, the arrival of artificial intelligence.
Italy has welcomed world leaders to the shores of its southern Puglia region. The choice was made to signify the will of Italy to be a bridge between the North and the South, with Africa taking a significant place in the heart of the agenda's summit.
For too long, Africa has been misunderstood and exploited, looked down or from above. But Africa is instead a continent that can surprise, if put in the conditions to take advantage of what is extraordinary about it. It is up to us to collaborate with African nations and to build with them new development opportunities with a peer-to-peer approach in order to grow together. We want to do it not through lectures and documents, but with facts.
The G7 summit serves as a critical platform where the world's most influential nations discuss global governance and finance issues in the world that urgently need strong leadership and effective solutions.
Russia cautioned Western nations that its retaliation would be severely agonizing in response to their confiscation of Russian assets. Maria Zakharova, speaking on behalf of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, stated on Thursday that Western efforts to generate revenue from frozen Russian assets are deemed criminal and will prompt a retaliation from Moscow that will inflict significant pain on the European Union. The Group of Seven agreed to provide Ukraine with approximately $4 billion from seized Russian assets, as reported by the German news agency and Bloomberg.
Мы знаем о якобы достигнутых принципиальных договоренностях.
We know about the supposedly reached fundamental agreements within the G7 to provide Ukraine with another loan of $50 billion pledged against future revenues from managing Russian assets. Such a step will not lead the West to anything good. There is enough European property and money in Russia. As you know, our government representatives have repeatedly spoken about this, and inevitable retaliatory measures will be extremely painful for Brussels.
Свое безумие из своего же кошелька.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said his country signed a 10-year security agreement with Japan on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Italy. The deal includes security and defense assistance, humanitarian aid, technical and financial cooperation. Following that, a similar deal between Ukraine and the US was signed. It includes bilateral security agreement aimed at strengthening Ukraine's defense and getting Ukraine closer to NATO membership. Now stay here for news and updates on occupied Palestinian territories after a short break. Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza said the occupation army committed 3 massacres against families in the Gaza Strip during the last 24 hours, killing 30 and injuring 105 others. With these massacres, the death toll of the Zionist aggression rose to 33,232 martyrs and 85,037 injuries since the 7th of last October, the majority of whom are women and children. And the government media office in Gaza stated that the occupation's use of starvation, thirst, and denial of medical care as weapons during its barbaric aggression constitutes a proven and complex war crime. The office's statement highlighted that the continuation of these massacres, which have surpassed 3,300 incidents, and resulted in around 50,000 martyrs and missing persons, confirms the ongoing genocide against the Palestinian people.
The Zionist occupation brutal tactics of starvation, thirst, and denial of medical care during this barbaric aggression are proven and complex war crimes. These actions confirm the ongoing genocide against our people in the Gaza Strip, all in full view of the entire world.
Hamas called on U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and the U.S. administration to put pressure on the Israeli occupation government, which it said was determined to complete the mission of killing and genocide in a flagrant violation of all international laws and treaties. Hamas in a statement confirmed that it had shown at all stages of the negotiations to stop the aggression the positive attitudes required to reach a comprehensive and satisfactory agreement based on the just demands of the Palestinian people for a final cessation of aggression, a complete withdrawal from the Strip, the return of the displaced and reconstruction, and the conclusion of a serious prisoner exchange deal. The representative of the Hamas movement in Algeria, Youssef Hamdan, said that the movement is still under media and political pressure, accusing it of obstructing efforts to reach a ceasefire agreement in Gaza. He stressed in a press statement that Hamas has shown sufficient flexibility and positivity in all stages of the negotiations.
لا تزال الحركة تتعرض لضغوط إعلامية وضغوط سياسية في محاولة
The movement is still under media and political pressure in an attempt to accuse it of undermining any agreement to stop the aggression against our people. We reaffirm that the movement has shown sufficient flexibility and positivity throughout all the phases of the negotiations aimed at reaching an inclusive and satisfactory deal which is based on the just demands of our people through a definitive end to the aggression, the total withdrawal from the Strip, the return of the displaced, the reconstruction, and the conclusion of a serious prisoners exchange deal. We also reaffirm that we have responded with full positivity and national responsibility to the latest proposal and all the previous proposals to reach a ceasefire and the release of prisoners. However, Netanyahu's response to the movement acceptance was by invading Rafah and intensifying his aggression against our people in the entire Gaza Strip, particularly in Rafah.
في عدوانه على شعبنا في كل قطاع غزة وبالخصوص في منطقة رفح.
White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said on Thursday that U.S. President Joe Biden will urge G7 leaders to support ceasefire negotiations in Gaza and encourage Hamas to accept the proposal. Sullivan added in statements to reporters on the sidelines of the group leaders meeting in southern Italy that the world must encourage Hamas to accept the proposal and avoid reaching a dead end, as he put it, noting that the goal is to bridge the gap with the movement and reach an agreement as soon as possible. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, warned on Thursday of catastrophic environmental and health risks in the Gaza Strip. The agency said on the X platform that there are more than 33,000 tons of waste accumulated in populated areas around the Gaza Strip, which poses catastrophic environmental and health risks. It stressed that the unhindered access of humanitarian aid and a ceasefire are of utmost importance to restore humane living conditions in the Strip. The Palestinian Prisoners Club said that the Zionist occupation authorities have arrested more than 9,170 Palestinians from the West Bank, in addition to thousands from the Gaza Strip since the beginning of its ongoing aggression against the Palestinian people on October 7th. The report explained that the arrests were focused on families of prisoners and that the occupation carried out horrific and dangerous crimes over more than 8 months of continuous and escalating aggression, which led to the martyrdom of at least 18 prisoners. While the number of arrests among journalists since October 7th has reached about 58 journalists, 52 of whom remain in detention, including 14 journalists from Gaza and 6 female journalists, while the number of arrests among medical personnel reached about 310, and among the detainees are no less than 30 lawyers and 35 engineers. The British opposition Labour Party pledged on Thursday to recognize the Palestinian state to help revive the peace process. In its electoral program, the party affirmed that the establishment of a Palestinian state is an inherent right of the Palestinian people. The party committed to recognizing the Palestinian state, aiming to contribute to the peace process and support a two-state solution leading to the establishment of a sovereign Palestinian state.
No matter the short term.
On Wednesday night, the Zionist entity intensified its bombing of villages and towns in southern Lebanon. Zionist warplanes launched 2 raids and drones targeted the town of Al-Natha al-Sha'ab. Zionist forces also fired light shells in the airspace over Al-Jabin, Jihin, and Al-Bustan. This escalation coincides with the continuous aggression against the Gaza Strip since October 7, resulting in civilian casualties and forcing hundreds of families to flee their homes. Lebanese Hezbollah announced having launched a precise attack with missiles and drones on 9 military sites in the southern occupied Palestinian territories and the occupied Golan Heights. The movement said in its statement that the attack came as a response to the assassination of one of its prominent leaders carried out by the Zionist entity in the town of Troya, south of Lebanon. The Ansarullah Houthi group reported a significant military operation targeting the Terror ship in the Red Sea, causing serious damage. Houthi military spokesman Yahya Sari stated that the group also executed 2 joint operations with the Iraqi Islamic resistance, targeting vital locations in Ashdod and Haifa. Both operations were declared successful. The Chief of Staff of the Algerian Army, General of the Army Said Shingriha, commended the role of Soviet teams in the mission of clearing mines left over from the colonial era following Algeria's independence. According to a statement from the Algerian Ministry of Defense, Said Shingriha, during his reception of retired Russian Colonel Andrei Pavlenko at the headquarters of the Algerian Army, stated that Algerian-Russian relations have witnessed significant development, especially following the establishment of a deep strategic partnership between the 2 countries.
I would like to commend and highlight the exceptional role played by the Soviet teams in this humanitarian mission, whether through their active participation in the field in this operation or their contribution to the training of Algerian engineering teams. The Algerian-Russian relations have witnessed significant progress, especially following the establishment of a strategic partnership between the 2 countries during the state visit paid by Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces and Minister of National Defense to your friendly country in June 2023.
Algeria's Sonatrach signed on Thursday a head of agreement with Chevron to develop 2 gas basins in Qanat and Birkin, a path Algeria is pursuing to bolster its investments in the energy sector. Marwa Blaiwar.
In an effort to boost its productivity and advance its oil extraction endeavors, the Algerian Sonatrach Group has forged a significant partnership with Chevron, a leading powerhouse in the global energy sector. This memorandum of understanding marks a pivotal moment, providing a platform for discussions on fuel resource development in southern Algerian Qanat and Birkin basins.
This agreement provides the appropriate framework which will shape our further joint discussions and will serve as a platform to guide our negotiation around the existing opportunities and possibilities for developing hydrocarbon resources in the common areas of interest divided in the basins of Qanat and Birkin.
This latest agreement with Chevron underscores Algeria's esteemed position in the worldwide fuel industry, reinforcing its reputation as a reliable ally.
We also believe that signing of this agreement with Chevron will enable Sonatrach to benefit from the proven international expertise of Chevron company. In addition, it will open up promising horizons for development of the national mining sector and contribute to the fulfillment of our shared ambition to exploit our country's hydrocarbon resources in a responsible and sustainable manner.
Algeria holds a world-class petroleum system with potential for significant oil and gas resource development for the country and to deliver the energy the world needs. We hope to be a long-term strategic partner here in Algeria in your energy sector and unleash the extraordinary energy resources you have in Algeria to provide the energy for the world.
Sonatrach's collaboration with Chevron is part of a broader series of agreements recently inked by the former with major players in the fuel sector, including ExxonMobil from the United States and technology firms like Huawei from China. These initiatives are primarily geared towards enhancing Sonatrach's capabilities and ramping up fuel production.
African and Asian countries reaffirmed their demand to respect the Sahrawi people's self-determination and independence during the 24th Committee's substantive session on the implementation of the Declaration on the Granting of Independence to Colonial Countries and Peoples. Hossein Berkan.
At the United Nations headquarters, several African and Asian nations voiced strong support for the Sahrawi cause, calling for respect of the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination and independence. Countries such as Iran, Angola, Botswana, and East Timor urged the Decolonization Commission to intensify efforts to create conditions for a free and fair referendum and to recommit to a political process leading to the long-awaited vote.
All the parties concerned, including Polisario fronts, Morocco, Algeria, and Mauritania, to build on the progress already made. We also call for the relevant parties to continue to cooperate and to work on the implementation of the confidence-building measures to achieve a just, lasting, and mutually acceptable political solution that provides for the self-determination of the people of the Western Sahara.
The representative of Iran emphasized the United Nations' responsibility towards the peoples of Western Sahara and their right to self-determination, expressing concern over the Sahrawi people's plight.
We urge the international community to focus its efforts on enabling the Sahrawi people to exercise their right to self-determination and independence. Additionally, my country calls on the international community to implement all United Nations resolutions related to the remaining colonized territories, including Western Sahara.
Countries are pushing for the full implementation of the joint settlement plan between the United Nations and the Organization of African Unity regarding the Sahrawi issue, which was approved by the UN Security Council in 1991. The Polisario Front maintains that independence and restoration of national sovereignty are the only solutions to the conflict.
6 soldiers were killed in Niger in an attack launched by unknown assailants on soldiers guarding a major oil pipeline between Niger and Benin. According to security sources, the attack on the patrol occurred on Wednesday, while no party has yet claimed responsibility for the attack. And it is the first to target the security forces charged with protecting the pipeline that was inaugurated last November. Forty-two people were killed in a new attack in the Beni region in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo. The attack is attributed to rebels affiliated with the Daesh terrorist organization, according to a new toll reported by local authorities. Chinese Foreign Minister urged the United States to immediately stop what it called abusing illegal unilateral sanctions and said China would take all necessary measures to safeguard the interest of the Chinese companies and citizens. This comes after the US on Wednesday broadened sanctions on Russia, including targeting China-based companies selling semiconductors to Moscow. And more than 1.5 million pilgrims are preparing to perform Hajj rituals on Friday, which corresponds with the day of Tarwiyah, a spiritual journey during which the pilgrims pray for forgiveness without forgetting to pray for Gaza and its people.
It's actually very sad to see what is happening every day in Gaza, and we are completely knowing about it, and at times we even feel helpless that we can't do anything right in action. But always our prayers is with Gaza, and it's very sad to see people dying every day. So my wish for Gaza is that this war will end very soon and the people's lives are saved and no more people are killed there. So what we want is an immediate ceasefire, and that is what even I prayed for even yesterday when I was doing my Umrah.
That was it for tonight's program. Thank you for watching and see you tomorrow.